Today is Monday, April 3rd. It is 6:30, and we'd like to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. Under new business, I would like to move the section on Parks and Recreation up to number 1 so that Jerry can present and then go home.
Just a point, you can't amend a special meeting, but you can go out of order with just an agreement of the people.
Okay.
So,
but we also need to delete a couple that we already...
Well, you just say we've already covered that, but you can't amend it at all according to a special meeting. But you can easily go down and grab them first. Okay. Or in Jerry's case, last. I'm a good Jerry.
Okay, so we're changing the order here.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. But next on the agenda is delegations. This is the point where any of the public can address the Board of Finance on any item that is on our agenda this evening. So is there anyone here from the public who'd like to discuss? Would you come to the podium and state your name and address?
Hi, my name is Scott Todd. I live at 30 York Avenue, and I've been there for 4 years now. I'm here to support the inclusion of the funding for pickleball courts. I know it has the full support of the Board of Selectmen and the First Selectman, but I just want to try to emphasize the importance to the pickleball community that these courts stay in the budget. I just briefly, some of the distinctives of pickleball relative to other sports is it is very easy to learn, but still hard to master, so it keeps your interest. It's an egalitarian kind of sport where old and young can compete, on a level playing field, male and female, all the time. And athletic, non-athletic, it doesn't really make that much difference. It's all about strategy and knowing how to play the game. And then, to me, the biggest thing is the social nature of the sport. I've never seen a kind of sport where 25 people can come together. They don't know each other, but they'll come together and play with each other. Swapping teams every 10 minutes or so when a game is done. And after a few weeks, you know their names. You start to know the people, and you make a lot of new friends. Another distinctive of pickleball is how devoted the adherents become. It's very addictive, and it's not unusual at all after somebody starts playing to see them out there 4 to 6 times, maybe 7 times a week. That's normal.
Can I just interrupt 1 second? I'm getting a message that there's no sound for the TV. Is that? I don't want to.
How about now?
I'm hearing it through here. So. It's coming through on my end.
Okay, so I guess it's the TV station that there's no sound if someone's watching it on the TV.
I don't think I have control over that.
I can hear it fine through YouTube.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it perfectly.
So
I don't know how they're hearing it.
must just be something to do with the TV station.
It might be their text and texting turns the volume potentially. Yeah, it's perfectly fine
Yeah.
on YouTube.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
And quickly to move on, I don't want to take too much time, but the current situation for pickleball in town is inadequate. We do have 3 courts that are marked on the basketball courts, but that's a shared space. And when we're playing there, then basketball can't happen, and vice versa. So far, we haven't had any major, fights with the basketballers, but we do stay off of Saturday mornings because we know they like to play. And the other thing is it's kind of on a high plateau near the sea, so there's a lot of breeze comes through there, and pickleballs are very light. If you've seen it, it's just like a wiffle ball. And so they fly all over the place. And we get around that with a big bag of lots and lots of balls, and everybody stuffs their pockets, but it's less than ideal. And it's really not a permanent solution for our town. Also, there's no permanent nets. There are, Parks and Rec was really good enough to get us a dock box out there where we keep 3 portable nets and the bag of balls, and the town provides those to the pickleball players free of charge. So I will point out, as it was mentioned at Kathy Wilson's retirement party, that seniors are the largest demographic in the town, as well as the fastest growing demographic. And although pickleball is not, limited to seniors by any means, it's especially popular to seniors because we have the time to play, and we don't have to. You don't have to run so much. It's much easier to play than if you're trying to play tennis or basketball. The other thing is, I think the seniors are kind of underserved as a group within Park and Rec, because there really hasn't been this kind of an opportunity in the past. So with all that said, roughly a year ago, I initiated a change.org petition online, and we currently have over 300 signatures in that petition. Petition requested just that the Parks and Rec Commission establish a committee to look into how we could establish pickleball courts, outdoor dedicated pickleball courts in town. So that committee was established that first night. Sue Kumro volunteered to chair it. We met a number of times and discussed court design, court locations, considering all town properties, that were suitable all over town. We came up with our own ideas of, of what it should be, but we never put it down on paper until today. We were busy playing pickleball, and we didn't get the report out until today, but in your email, Denise, there should be that report, and I have a hard copy I can give you tonight if you want. To summarize the report, it's recommending 4 courts be built, and they be oriented north and south, and that the location would be at Bridebrook Peretz Park. There's a spot that is just west of the basketball courts that is really perfect for that. There's a bit of a mound of grass and grassy dirt that has to be brought down, but other than that, it's pretty level and a good spot. There's bathrooms and parking available, so that reduces the cost, and there's even poles with lights on them, but the lights are facing the basketball courts, and ideally you'd like to have lights from more than one direction. So that's the recommendation of the committee, and we were happy to see the support of the First Selectman and the Board of Selectmen for building these courts at a cost of $275,000. That estimate came from a rough estimate from one of the pickleball companies. They said on the average maybe $50,000 per court, but that's just the bare courts. That's not the fencing that's very much needed, wind screens, lighting, etc. I will point out that Montville is now in the process of building their 6 pickleball courts using post-tension concrete, just like what we want to do at Camp Oakdale, and I've seen pictures that's well underway. So within a couple months, those courts will be ready. So with that said, I just feel that dedicated pickleball courts will be a really welcome addition to our town, and I hope that you will keep it in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to any item on the agenda? Okay, we can move on to new business. And we'll go ahead and start with budget number 421, Parks and Recreation. And welcome, Jerry. This is your first time with the town presenting your budget, so.
Yes, thank you for moving me up on the agenda as well. I'm Jerry Locken, the Director of Parks and Rec. And as you know, the Parks and Rec Department is fully involved in the town. We're a big reason of why East Lyme is East Lyme. The parks, the beaches, the boardwalk, the youth sports, natural and historical areas, the programs that we offer, the community events that we offer, the concerts, Celebrate East Lyme, the holiday stroll, farmers markets, decorating contests, all those things go through Parks and Rec. And so this community really celebrates Parks and Recreation, supports Parks and Recreation, and that was one of the big reasons why I sought to come to East Lyme to work in an environment that supports Parks and Rec so much. But in addition to those great parks, we do a lot of other things. We help maintain other town properties such as the public safety complex, the field services building, the town hall grounds, Methodist Street parking, parking along Main Street, properties along Pennsylvania Avenue and whatnot. So that's a lot of stuff for us to do. And in order to do that, we have a great staff, but we also need some equipment. So in terms of really what we're looking for here today, we're looking for a couple of zero-turn mowers so we can mow all these fields and parks. And we're also looking for an automated paint liner. And I can just point this out. I put a copy of this on everybody's thing. And what is a line painting robot? A line painting robot is just what it does. It goes out and all by itself will go paint perfect lines on a field for lacrosse or soccer or any other sport. So as you might imagine, our staff members spend a lot of time on athletic fields with strings and line painters and things like that, and doing it by hand. This automated line painter could really save us some time and energy on our park staff that we can then turn around and make improvements at the beach or make improvements elsewhere in the parks. So we're hoping the Board of Finance can continue to support that as the Board of Selectmen has done. In terms of our operational budget, you can see the numbers up there on the screen, but really the only major change that we have is the addition of trying to make our prevention, wellness, and mentoring coordinator in youth services full-time. Currently, that position is a 28-hour position with funding shared between the general fund and ARPA funds. But we're hoping to make that position a full-time position, and including that in the general fund over time. So there really, the COVID pandemic really showed us that there is a need in the community for this type of work, and counseling and prevention activities are really a need. So we're hoping that the board can continue to support that upgrade of that position. And then only a couple of other small changes in contracted operations. We did request some additional funding, but the Board of Selectmen did reduce that back to last year's amount. We had hoped to do some contracted service cleaning restrooms at the parks, but what we'll do is we'll focus the cleaning on the peak season, and then we're going to take care of the additional months with our existing seasonal or park staff. And then there's a small reduction in operating expenses for miscellaneous supplies too, and we'll make that work as well. And in terms of capital projects, you heard from these folks here earlier about the pickleball courts. So that's probably our biggest ask in terms of capital funding, in addition to the equipment things we mentioned earlier. So with that, I guess I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
I got a couple. The position you want to increase, again, what was the title?
It is a youth services, prevention, wellness, and mentoring coordinator.
And forgive me for my ignorance, how is the youth services staff now? What's their staffing pattern look
Their
like?
staffing pattern is one single 28-hour a week
So this
position.
person is it? She's
That's it. That is the only
and the
youth
scope of her
services
responsibilities are?
prevention, wellness, and mentoring for youth.
What does
So-
she do?
Yep.
How does she achieve that goal, I should ask?
Yep, she is responsible for obtaining state grants for our youth services operation. She's works with community partners to organize activities at schools, works with volunteers in the community to get mentors into the school to assign to children who need mentors, works with the juvenile review board in terms of people that get in trouble and referrals and counseling services, lots of things. There's quite a bit of work to be done in that area.
And she's it?
And she's it at 28 hours a week.
And the only other question I had was, where is this in the budget? I'm not,
I guess I'll
Capital projects,
oh, it's in capital?
It's under
Yeah.
I
capital.
didn't see it in capital.
it's called a robot line painter.
yeah, automated line painter, I think
I
it
didn't
might.
see it in there.
Yeah, it's
I saw the pickleball. court.
automated, it says automated line painter in the capital, under culture and recreation.
Right, because I think we talked about it when we.
Yeah, I remember talking, I just
Yeah.
didn't see it here.
Yep.
Okay, still not seeing it, okay. On the page before? Oh, okay, I see.
So, anything else, Peter?
No, I'm good, thank you.
In regard to the pickleball courts, what would ongoing maintenance be associated with?
Well, ongoing maintenance, daily maintenance of a pickleball court is really minimal. You could think about it as much like a tennis court. So the courts as proposed are going to be fenced in, so there may be some small daily activity in terms of, if leaves or trash get in there, something that's a minimal cleanup operations. But in terms of ongoing maintenance, it may be just as simple as replacing nets seasonally or something like that after they get, used and worn out by use and the sun or whatnot, but really minimal. The post-tension concrete surface that they're talking about is really a surface that's going to last quite a while. From time to time, it would have to be perhaps relined to make sure that the lines don't get worn away. So, that's kind of minimal, and it happens, every say for 5 or 10 years to kind of do that type of, minimal renovation.
And then, just, I've been reading up a lot about it, and I know there's controversies around sound in a lot of communities, so just wanted to ask, were there any sound studies? Did the place that you're recommending, what's the closest residential?
Sure, sure.
Because
So-
I don't want to
Yeah.
make it a big deal, but at the same time, we don't want to invest the money and then.
Correct.
I think I just saw yesterday where a community shut it down because.
Correct.
So I'm just
Yeah, I think the committee did study various locations, and the impact on neighbors was a primary factor that they considered. Bridebrook Park, where we're talking about, is an acre, it's several acres large. These courts would be in just about the exact middle of that park, well away from any kind of neighbors. So I think that the sound, issue here at Bridebrook is not it would not be an issue.
Okay.
And they said they have high school athletic events there that are quite noisy as well, so it's not as if it's an area designed for a lot of activity, and girls softball is there, lacrosse is there. There's a cement lacrosse wall that the neighbors, Jerry and I have both heard that the neighbors do hear the ball, and we've been made aware that they can hear the ball. This would be farther away from that, not nearly the volume of that.
Thank you, I'm glad you looked into it. I just, like I said, wouldn't want to invest and
Sure.
then have it be a controversy later. Have anything?
I have a question. Under utilities, the athletic lighting estimate, it went up like 117%, but when I looked at the narrative, there's no narrative on it.
211.
All right, so sorry, could you just read out that number just so I make sure
211.
I'm,
The athletic lights, 16,000.
It was under 210 and
It's
211.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's technically utilities. 211. Yeah, so before it was athletic lighting estimates, but now it's actually utilities, water and sewer. It's all utilities just broken out. So it's $6,000 for the increased,
yeah, I guess the only thing I would say about that, I know that I did add in the $1,400 you can see in red there on the screen is for a new switch that would allow us to control lights with a cell phone to turn lights on and off. Right now, it's a manual type operation. So it would save staff time and we'd be able to turn the lights on and off. So that's a $1,400 increase. The rest of it, I think, I would say that the $15,000 that's listed there goes by, we created that from past usage. And I guess I got that information from our what our bills were and what they're expected to be for the current year. So I think that's based on history. So yeah, that is a bit of an increase there. I'm not sure that last year that there was enough, frankly, to included in that to pay the bill for the entire year.
keep distracting me like a lot.
Yeah, that's why we're looking at Kevin for
You're
verification.
only going so fast. But, let me talk for a second. So, hold on, I gotta turn it on so you can hear me. I think you were more concerned about the water and sewer bill up there, the $6,000. If I'm not mistaken, are we replacing a couple of the big pumps, or like the meters?
Correct.
At Brybrook and
Correct.
Peretz? Don't quote me.
McCook's.
One of the couple of the beaches or the parks properties. We're getting new meters. The person that actually has to put in, that owns the meter has to put it in, right, Kevin, over a certain size water main? Water and sewer chairman?
Yeah. Right now, the cost is, this isn't like the one we got in your home or something like that. If you got the new meter replacement, it'll be much larger, so they'll be responsible for the cost of that. Plus, they're going to be a lot more accurate. As meters get older, they underreport. There are people who, they got culture shock, especially if they've been estimated, they're going to go up. So there's a strong feeling that once the meters are in place, you'll get a far more accurate, and it's going to increase the cost of water. Same thing, the school's going through the same thing now. The Board of Ed has to replace the pumps they have up there because they've had ridiculously low water bills. Once these get replaced, they're going to have to assume the cost of their meter, which is extremely expensive, and then there'll be a much higher cost of the waters too. So some of the estimates over the last few years will be basically, slowly, amortized over that time. They're going to give them a couple of years to pay back the back water. So I think that was done as a hedge because they know they've all been underreported. So, and here again, the water and sewer department technically is not part of the town. It's its own utility. So that's why.
So just to clarify, in our budget books, where it says 211 and it says athletic lighting estimates, that should really be utilities, water and sewer. And that's the one going from the budget last year, 1,500, to the budget this year of 6,000. Okay.
So just to look, current expenditures, we've already spent $1,300, and we have the full amount encumbered. Let me see here. So I think this is additional, there's a little bit of additional expenses there for the actual meter replacements themselves. So that'd be that one-time cost. So, but, just keep in mind, with more accurate meters, like Kevin said, the bills might increase. So just be prepared.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions for Jerry? All set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we can go back to general government, 114.
Be backwards,
It's not consistent, is it?
Apparently I didn't save the capital slides. Such a clear. So we're going to do general government. Yeah, I'll make it bigger. Okay. Oh, wrong computer. Wasn't responsive. All right. So, let me turn this way. All right. If you are looking at the front page of the books and the FICA and Medicare number doesn't tie perfectly, that's because it's a formula based in that budget workbook. So don't hold me to the exact dollar amount if your FICA and Medicare are slightly off. That's a calculation in that workbook.
That's
So,
what we have.
is it off slightly?
No, we
No,
have what you
that's-
have.
Well, never mind. Forget I said that. It's always nice when things reconcile, huh? Just going through this, there's not much here. It's kind of staying the same. Like I said, FICA, this is all tied back to the number of employees. And I can always share my little spreadsheet for you. It's actually if you have that handy dandy master worksheet, if you go to the very bottom, you'll see where I get my calculations. I add up every line that has personnel to it. It's not on the form, it's not printed because you'd never be able to read it. But I think I've sent out a couple versions of that Excel file. I can resend it as well. Workers' comp, that's we have a contract with them, so there's a flat fee. It'll increase by the pension number. This is kind of still work in progress. Depends on what the pension board does. If we lower the liability, what's it called, the expected rate of return or the discount rate from 6.5 to either 6.25, leave it at 6.5 or reduce even further, that'll have an impact on here in future years. Also, there's another impact from the pension board, whether or not we amortize gains and losses over 10 years instead of 5 as it is currently. And that would really smooth out our pension payments in the years going forward. And I believe next month we can share some more trajectory with the pension payments. Once you want to raise your blood pressure next month, we can do that. Life insurance, 5%. Health care, dental, that is going up 8%, even though the budget, the number that we were given is 7.1. We have to add a couple of new positions. The deputy finance director, the 2 police officers that are starting, 4 months into the year. Those other 8 months, they still need health insurance. So, retirement liability, So when people leave, we have to pay out whatever the contracted rate is for the number of sick days, number of vacation days, comp time, things like that. So we have a little calculation, and that number, Kevin's reduced it, and there's first selectman cuts from what I like to see it as. And you probably remember from last year and the other years, I believe it was like 125 you were budgeting, and then in the beginning, one of the first meetings you guys you would roll that number. What you're doing is asking for an additional appropriation in day one. You're not budgeting for it. You can't roll general fund money. So we're getting away from that. We're just eating the cost. We're putting the whole amount in this year. So you can't roll things in a general fund. So and then legal, I believe we're staying status quo on most legal. We cut 10,000 from legal ads just based on what our actual projections look like. I added 25,000 for, you can see the department head requested. When it's department head requested, that was me coming up with a number. So for general government, I added 25,000 for, what was it, Kev? Charter revision. But we're thinking we're going to be able to absorb that with the 100,000 we currently have budgeted. We've seen a reduced amount in fees in the last couple months. Trying to minimize who calls the attorneys. Go funnel it all through Kevin. Siri. Labor, zoning, these are all very, we need to have a little cushion here for legal. Anything you want to add, Kev, for legal? Okay.
Can I just go back to retired liability? What's our experience been for our budget year to date?
So, someone just retired not that long ago. One person retiring is almost 70,000 if they've been here long enough. So that line at 300,000, I think we could get away with 5 long-term retirements, maybe 6 if they weren't here since Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So that number goes quickly. I mean, they're building up a lot of. I can send you. I'll do a calculation and show our liability. It's over $2 million. So that's, if everyone retired today, we'd have to pay out, this lump sum of money. There's 160 employees on the town side, so full-timers. So.
And is that included in contract negotiation as an item that we'd like to address? I mean, I know when I worked, if I didn't use my time by the first quarter of the following year, we lost it.
It's not really something that would be much of an option right now in contracts because we've set the bar. So, I mean, we could probably look at people coming in, but people going out, I can't foresee that working.
I'm thinking for new employees because
right now we'd have to wait till, like with Upshur, they've got 2 years left to go on a contract. We're well into the police negotiations. That hasn't come up right now.
This is just, it's tough to budget for, when all of a sudden you get a bunch of people retire and then you've got to come up with $1 million or what have you. So I'd love to see us move away from that.
The thing is, especially in municipal negotiations, if you're doing that, if you're going to take away a benefit, where's the other benefit coming in? So that's one of the things you have to be concerned about. I mean, what you're basically doing is you're reducing someone's payout at retirement, which right now, if you've been working for 10 years or 20 years, you're counting on that when you go. It's hard to all of a sudden say, you're not getting 50% of your sick days, you're getting, 10% of them or something.
So, again, something that would have to be rolled in for new employees so that they wouldn't be.
Yeah, if the union would be willing to. But here again, where are we going? You have to negotiate into what you'd be expecting to do to make up for removing a benefit.
All right. So, any questions with anything 100, 140? Any of these sections? Police accreditation. The police is going through accreditation, so there's a law firm that's helping us out with that. Conservation, a lot of these lines, so conservation, I know it's only $4,500. I believe we're over for the year already, but what we do is, instead of transferring further lines, conservation, there's 15,000 here, not much of it's been used, so do a transfer and cover it from there, so. Coming down here, unemployment. So we budgeted $10,000. The other day, we got a quarterly bill for over $8,000. So towns are different than private industry. We don't have unemployment insurance on the town side. The town picks up the tab for unemployment. So if 3 employees are terminated, they file for unemployment and get it, we're paying $1 for dollar. So there's no unemployment insurance that picks that up. The town picks that up. So that's just something to think about in the next couple of quarters. Evictions and storage. I'm not sure how municipalities got stuck in the eviction process, but hold on, Kevin.
There is some legislation addressing that, how we have to store items and so forth like that at the state level. So this is the first time it's come up, and bills nothing gets done the first time it comes up. It's maybe the second or third. So it is being looked at. One of the things we're looking at right now is every time we have to do an eviction, we have to rent a storage facility to put it in. We're looking at using some funds, town funds, to purchase like a storage box that's bigger than that could be placed up at the transfer station, because very often we have to store it for a required amount of time. Then we have to transport it to the transfer station and throw it away. This way, it'd be all right there. So, one stop, well, sort
of. Checking indices, that's another statutory requirement for the town clerk's vault. Insurance, PD&L, that's the town's liability property insurance. Employee assistance, that's our town's employee assistance program. Okay, operations, operating expenses, professional developments. If there's someone wants to go to a conference, they have to talk to the first selectman about getting using this money. That's above and beyond any town's individual training lines. So there's that. Southeastern Council of Governments, CCMs, these are annual memberships for the town. I'm not quite sure what CRED is, Kev, C-R-E-D? It's just one of the memberships we're a part of. I have it broken down on that list. I just don't know off the top of my head. Connecticut Regional something.
Question on, do you find that we actually utilize CCM?
Yes, we do use CCM and COG quite a bit.
I know you speak about COG all the time.
CCM, COG more frequently because the resources are right here.
Yeah.
But CCM gets back to us really quickly with things. They do make a couple site visits a year to make sure that we're aware of services they provide and stuff like that. So it does benefit the town to be part of CCM. When you combine, the vast majority of that funding goes to COG. There's not that much for CCM and CRED. Oh, actually, yes. Okay.
So 3 organizations get 10,000. The southeastern sector. I should have wrote down these names.
Transit.
The acronyms. Should have wrote them.
And SEAT is the bus service.
Yep.
And again, with sector and so forth, everybody in Southeast Connecticut, all the towns that are part of COG contribute to that, and they're at their organization is at all the COG meetings as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone have any questions for Kevin's?
So next up, service to the community.
Yep.
Sound about right? Yeah, you want to take that? Sure. Here you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, for this one, I mean, the only ones I'll highlight are the new ones. Family Service Association, Homeless Shelter, those are pretty much, we've done that every year, and those are the requests we get from those organizations. TVCCA, East Lyme Cemeteries, they have asked to go up for $1,000 in that to do some maintenance in some of the older cemeteries. We did just get, we did apply for a $5,000 grant. We did get it too. So that's nice to hear that to do some maintenance, well needed maintenance there too. Blue Door is the new one. That basically is the organization provides gently used free medical equipment to families in need that couldn't otherwise provide it. If you call up, and it not only does it help ease the stress on the family and the caregivers and the people that need the equipment, it does provide the needed equipment to them on a very quick basis. Rena Powers is the chair of that organization, or basically the 501c. They take no money from for salaries or anything like that. They're entirely volunteer. But if someone calls up and needs a wheelchair, needs a hospital bed, needs a walker, needs a a bedside potty, commode, it's provided free of charge. They do ask for a donation if you can. If you can't, and it's delivered right now. So if you need one now, you don't have to worry about going through the insurance process to get it. You get it right then. This has grown. In fact, they just got the Power of Giving, I think is what it's called. They got a $9,200 award from them this year too. It's providing a really great resource. So last year,
Where are they?
they're located in Niantic.
Oh, they're good.
Actually,
good.
they're looking for a storefront, but unfortunately, there's the cost involved with that is a little difficult right now. So we're trying to see if we can find a place for them, because right now they're using their own residences and garages to store all this equipment right now. And last year, Bill Weber said, "Are we getting all the the charities that maybe need some help here?" Karen Scherer said, "No, they're set. They didn't need anything like that. Not that they wouldn't take it, but they said we're not in need." They're getting started. They could use it, so that's one of the ones added in there. Same thing with the next one, the Giving Garden. The Giving Garden started a couple years ago. They've provided over 8 tons of food. This is all organically grown food up across from the Baptist Church on Church Lane, in that field that they're allowing them to, the church is allowing them to use. And we've given literally tons of food to those in need. So they're getting started. They're doing some fundraisers and so forth, but they could use a little seed money in addition to what they've already had. So I put them down for $2,500. And here again, they're providing a lot to the community. And they're also having the school children from the high school come over to learn about organic growing, how not to grow without, I guess, turning the soil over like that helps release more greenhouse gases. They're teaching you how to plant and continue to grow without doing all the turning like that. So doing that. Eastside student government, it's been 1,000 forever, so we've upped that to 2,000. That's a request in there for that. Mrs. Hardy does that. So now instead of providing one $1,000 scholarship, I think the plan is to provide 2 for the town. Vets Council, same thing there. Veterans rep mileage reimbursement. We have a veterans rep, Brian Burrs. He drives vets to hospitals in Newington. He drives them to the hospital in West Haven, and he has never, ever requested reimbursement for it. I mean, he does out-of-pocket expense. So we figured, if it's just going to driving around town here or something like that, not that. But we did want to establish a fund to compensate him for taking town veterans to hospitals and so forth like that around the state, or doctor's visits. So that's why we put that in there. Everything else pretty much stays the exact same.
I know we saw an email, there was a late request from Patrick in regard to flags for veterans at the cemeteries. Did that get included in that?
That's in here right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, because that was, one year that was cut. During COVID, because there was no Memorial Day parade, so they reduced that amount. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it carried over to another year, which put they actually had to borrow money from one of the other veterans groups in town. This will take care of that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one comment. is sort of my legacy here. Line 905, Family Service Association, that was the original organization. It has merged into United Community and Family Services.
Okay, yeah.
And just to, if you want to be accurate.
Okay.
Okay. UCFS.
UCFS,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was originally Family Service, because I used to come here and beg for money for them. But
I think, yeah. Okay, we can update that.
So, if that's it for community services, and we were all set with 118 and 126, which we took care of on March 22nd. We're all set with 421. So now on to debt, 522 and 523.
Go under capital outlay real quick.
Sure.
So one of the things, we haven't affirmed this yet, but at the Board of Select meeting in a couple nights, we're going to be looking at utilizing some of the remaining ARP funds to deal with some capital one-time, non-recurring that, are going to be paid cash out of this year's budget. So the Flanders Fire Department had self-contained breathing apparatuses for $7,460. Niantic had the same thing for $8,700. So we're going to, and they were here again. This wasn't going to be overtime. This was going to be paid right out of the capital. So the thought is to pay for that out of the American Rescue Plan Association, or to bring that to the Board of Selectmen. Fire Marshal had requested $10,000 for turnout gear. John Way had almost had $5,000 that he had gotten and never used. So that's still there under ARP, so they'll use that for one set and another $5,000 for the other set. $2,000 for the gas meters that he's requested. And then, we looked at a couple of, these are bigger items. The sidewalks, we put $25,000 in that. That's a perfect, walking, that would really fit under the, and I've verbally gotten an okay from Tracy Collins that these all fit ARP, but she'll give us something written. Sidewalks for $25,000. The town roof replacement, again, that's not to replace any roof, it's to put the fund in there, or keep rebuilding that up, but $10,000 in that. The HVAC pump fund, put $20,000 in that. And then the thing that Paul Maxfield brought up with the fire departments about the $20,000 generator, that would perfectly do it. So the total cost of all those items is $98,000 and a little over change. Kevin, you have the exact number, and it would still leave us $17,000 unaccounted for, or basically in reserve in our ARP money for whatever might come up. But these are one-time costs, and these aren't ones that should come up next year. The town roof and the HVAC will, and but the self-contained breathing apparatuses, they're on a sort of replacement, but it's different ones, it's not the same ones, so it would cushion the blow on this year on the capital outlay for almost $100,000 less we have to pay.
And we have till 2025?
We have to the end of 2024 to obligate it, and we have to the end of 2026 to spend it, which I'm sure all of this will be long gone by the end of 2026. But also coming up is the COVID pandemic emergency expires on May 11th, so the thought is if something else catastrophic came up, there would be a new allocation and, move on. And, and again, Rich was part of the, who else? Was somebody else in Port of Finance? Were you part of the ARP group?
Yes, I was.
Okay, yeah. I think that committee did such a fantastic job of, when you look at all the other communities here, they took care of the needs and addressed those that most in need that applied in the community on the 501c and businesses and so forth, and left a nice sum to take care of town things, and left a reserve to address contingencies like this, where it's a tough budget year, and these are one-time deals, so it's not as if these will be recurring and so forth like that. So good job to Rich, who's not here tonight, and Paul on that in that committee.
And so then will we get an updated, Kevin, on?
What we have to act on it Wednesday night,
Okay.
and the question has to be, since some of these are over 20,000 and 10,000, are we going to have to go to a town meeting for it? Because it is an allocation of funds over the 10,000, so that we'll have to look at that.
Okay. right. So then back to 522.
Oh, just, we have a second one, it just broke. So, and I'm sure there's a lead time on these things, so we'll get one next year sometime. So, all right, wow, if I turn away from this, you can't hear me at all, huh? All right, so this year, what I did was, this came right from US Bank. It's our debt service schedule, and then I just added things that we had debt outside of US Bank, so I added that onto this schedule, and bada bing, bada boom, we got our debt schedule. So, and don't worry, I tied it back to our amortization tables to make sure all the debt's there. So, like I said, here's just all of our debt. It's listed out by the payments. You can see the principal versus interest, the dates we pay. So this is why, and I think this kind of shows why it's important that we have some working capital, aka fund balance. If we didn't have any cash in our savings account, right? Some of these dates, 7/15, we have, multiple millions of dollars where we have to pay July 15th. If we didn't have money, in our coffers, say everyone says we're going to wait till July 28th to pay, which is when most of the money comes in, the last week of July, we're going to take out a loan to pay another loan. But luckily we have, a fund balance. We don't have to do that. That's why the GFOA recommends 16.7% fund balance, 2 months of working capital to alleviate problems like this, which we do not have.
And just to clarify, these are just the payments that are due in this fiscal year. It's
Correct.
not
Debt service is
our
just, this is
outstanding.
short term. Yeah, we have close to $75 million in debt. This is just debt service. This is just this year's payments to the debt. So in the financial statements, you can see as of 2021, the debt, add last year's bond, and then add the anticipated $6 million we have to pay this year. Add the $3 million that we're anticipating in this budget as well. So we're adding $9 million to that $70 million. So just to keep that in mind, that's why a couple months ago I did that debt presentation, just so you can have a picture of where we stand compared to other towns in our DERG. So so really this year, general fund, we are going to pay out $3.9 million of principal. Really, we're paying $10 million off, right? $6 million of that we're bonding. That was bond anticipation notes, a short-term loan that we have to then take out bonds to, pay it off over 10 or 20 years. So interest, we're paying $2.2 million in interest on the loans. So one thing we were really grateful, the last couple of years, interest rates have been very low. That's great. The town's really reaped, if we did have debt, this was the time to take it out at, less than 2% a lot of the time. So we have great interest rates on the debt we have. So so that's one good thing. So I don't really have much more to add. I mean, this is obligations. We have to pay this. So any questions? So the only thing I will add, okay, you'll notice our oldest bond is 2016. Okay, we have, these are some water, clean water fund, loans we do. But as far as bonds, actual town bonds, our oldest bond is 2016. So if, the last 6-7 years, pretty good interest rate environment. But the reason I say that is every year we're adding more debt, right? So next year we're going to have the same conversation again. That debt is not rolling off for a couple more years. So we're going to be paying that principal and then principal on the next tranche of debt. So next year we're going to have this exact same conversation of, oh my gosh, debt service is high again. It's going to be higher next year as well. So, and I could do a projection, and once I talk to our pension attorney and our pension advisor, not pension, bond, substitute bond for pension, and it's just so I could start talking to them, saying, what are you looking at? What are towns right now that are going out to bond? What are their rates? And that'll help us give a better projection of next year, what we're looking at paying, so. So this only goes up for the next couple of years.
So at what point do you think it'll come down, start to come down? 2 or 3 years? Unless we,
Well, so this can bleed perfectly into our debt conversation. I'm not debt, capital projects.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that next? And I can kind of talk how I would work through that. Let me just pull up the debt schedule, or the, capital. Okay. You have this in your workbooks. So, in order to reduce debt without reducing actual capital projects, we have to pay for cash, right? Or pay with the leasing program we do. So somewhere along the lines, let me just, oh, hold on, sorry. I'm gonna have to zoom out, so I know you're not gonna see the numbers. So, capital projects, we have 20-year bonds, 10-year bonds, 5-year financing, which is our lease. We have a lease acquisition program. It's leasing. We lease these items, and then paid for in cash. What I would like to see, this is not the year to do it, but eventually we need to start moving items to the right. So items should start slowly trickling over to the right, paid in cash. The problem is this year we have a lot of inflationary challenges. This wasn't the quite year to increase cash capital. But the solution to wean us off debt is to move us towards cash capital, right? Paying for it with tax dollars. So what I would like to see, going forward, this $850,000, for example, for every year we're bonding for the roads. Roads, that's the equivalent of you cracked a window in your house and you're going to take out a second mortgage. This is an annual expense. We're paying for this annually. We know next year Public Works is going to ask for $850,000 again, if not a little more. That should be in the right column. We should be paying for a portion of that in cash, because we're bonding that over 20 years. We're paying interest on that. And next year we're going to take out another tranche of debt, pay interest on that. It's a very bad negative feedback loop we're getting involved in here. So what I would have, my initial proposal for this year was to move 25% of that 850 to the last column there, paid in cash. Next year, 50-50. The year after, 25-75. Year 4, 0 and 100%. So whether that gets pushed off a year and we try to do that next year, whether we move a portion of that to this year, this is just some of the things that I work through behind the scenes, just to kind of balance the cash portion of the budget. So that's just that one portion. Anything else you guys want to talk about capital? You want to walk through all the items?
Just curious, other than roads, is there any other category that you think should move to paying?
So one of my pushes as the deputy finance director in Brookfield, where I worked, I was in charge of capital. So I met with the capital committee, and this was one of my big tasks, was to try to move items to the right. In the last couple of years, we were paying $3 million in excess in bonded, and by the time I left, we were paying $2.2 million in cash, right? And it was less than $1 million bonded. So we were trying to move it all to cash, but the problem is, someone's got to, we got to pay for that, right? So, for instance, like I just mentioned, the 25% per year for that. Some of these other projects, one thing I would like to get away from is just the very nature of 5-year financing. Those, I think, would be the first thing we could move to cash. But is this the year? I don't think this is the year we could do that. Maybe we can start moving it over, but I think the 5-year financing could be the first thing we could wean off of. And then just slowly move, have a threshold saying, okay, any project under $250,000, we're going to try to pay for cash. Or just have a threshold like that, and then just every year just increase that number. So just something to work towards. That's what I would like to see. But also that needs to be balanced with everything else in the big picture, so.
Okay. So I think that's all we have for tonight under new business. unless anyone has any more questions on capital. No? All right, we can move on to public discussion. Seeing no public.
You're the public.
I'm good.
Then we could, any comments from the board?
I'm good.
All right, I'll just point out, we have a meeting scheduled for April 10th for budget deliberations. We also have the budget public hearing on April 24th, and then on May 8th, we have the town meeting.
Okay, can you, the last two dates, the,
We'll be, we'll be posting that, that will be adopting the call of the town meeting at the annual town meeting at the meeting Wednesday night.
Okay.
there's one in between here and here.
Go UConn, right? Did I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries.
Just the 10th and the 24th?
That's all I have, right, 10.